let me first start off with Kukwa. Kukwa is a health researcher and a cognitive neuroscientist with particular interest in the brain and its influence on human behavior. She has studied, worked, and interned in clinics and hospitals over the past decade. And she's also been involved in a myriad of clinical-based research projects. Kukwa gained her qualifications both in Ghana and England. Currently, she provides neuropsychological services at Mission Pediatrics and Fafanto Psych Consult at Spentex. She is also working with a team on the Senior Minister's National Policy Reform within the health sector. Kukwa gets super excited with the brain. That's a fact. And how it functions, and has her focus on research. Her main aim is to be able to research further into or have a career in research and find ways to enhance the cognitive processes. By doing that, in a way to also alleviate the neurodegenerative disorders. That is Kukwa's objective and her goal. And who else would be in a better position than someone like this to help us understand what cognitive development is and how best we can support our learners? Then we'll think of Jed. We call him Jed for short, but he is Jedidiah Kwarifa. Jedidiah Blessing Kwarifa is a specialist in developmental psychology and data science. He currently serves as a special needs educator at Mission Pediatrics, where he utilizes his research-based instructional methods into supporting neurotypical and neurodiverse children. Jed is pursuing a data science program also at African Leadership in Technology and holds an MPhil in developmental psychology. Aside that, his bachelor's was also in psychology with French. From both degrees are from the University of Ghana. For his professional experience, he also does a part-time tutoring, focusing its attention in research. So then he also works as a part-time research assistant too. He's also volunteered at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, where he worked closely with nurses, teachers, the teachers, and also to ensure that patients have a very safe environment and their well-being is also improved. So in having all these learned colleagues here today, please, let's not waste time, but rather give the floor to Kukwa to start. And when she is done, Jed would continue for us, please. Kukwa, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ida. And good evening once again to our parents, our educators, and other professionals who have logged in to listen to us. I am struggling to connect my video. I don't know why my video is not coming on, but I was going to put it off anyway to ensure stable internet connectivity. So I would share my slides now. And please let me know if you can hear me or cannot hear me. Okay. Okay. So our topic for discussion today is cognitive development and learning. I'll take the cognitive development aspect, and my colleague from the same team will take the learning bit. At the end of this presentation, I hope that you will understand what cognitive development is, you will understand the stages of cognitive development. We will also become aware of some factors that influence cognitive development and learn new ways to enhance cognitive development in our children as parents. So what is cognitive development? Cognitive development is such a wonderful process. that involves the growth of mental abilities such as thinking, memory, language, and problem solving. So some practical ways of explaining cognitive development is when your child finally learns to respond to their name, when your child is able to put one book or one block on top of each other without making a mess, when your child is able to open a complex cereal box or solve a puzzle. We can say that your child is developing his or her information processing skills, spatial awareness, and motor coordination. These are all ways to explain cognitive development in very simple terms. Now, what are the stages of cognitive development? As parents, what should you know? You should know that cognitive development starts right from birth, right from 0 years, and it continues as our children age. There are 4 stages of cognitive development I want us to discuss today. But for the purpose of this presentation, we'll call the stages first stage, second stage, third stage, and fourth stage. So let's forget about the big names. So the first stage of cognitive development is also known as the sensory motor stage. This is from 0 years to about 2 years. This is where our children develop their 5 senses. So your children's brains want to see things, they want to touch things, they want to hear things, smell, and taste things as much as possible. So our children are 3 months, 4 months old, will start to develop their motor skills by crawling and touching things. And they are able to smile at us and recognize familiar faces as well. And at the end of this stage, we expect that our 2-year-olds are able to develop what we call object permanence. And object permanence, how best do I explain this? So for instance, when your child, when you hide behind a curtain or you cover your face, your babies would start to cry and think that you are gone. But by age 2 years, they should have developed the ability to know that you are there, even if you cover your eyes or hide behind a curtain. They should know that you are still there. So then we say that they have achieved object permanence by the end of this first stage. The second stage is also known as the pre-operational stage. This is where children start to develop language. So they are able to ask for things they want. They're able to ask for water. They're able to ask for food. They're able to tell you about their day. And in this stage as well, they engage in a lot of pretend play. And this pretend play helps them to learn new information. Now, another key point in this second stage is egocentric thinking. Our children are such egocentric thinkers between the ages of 2 and 7. This is to mean that when your child is making a mess or sitting inside the fridge and you go, Jai, Jai, stop, and they are not minding you and they are just laughing at you, it's because they can't reason, they can't think through things the way we think through things. They can't appreciate why we are saying they should Jai. They think about things, they do things the way they want to do things. They can't perceive things from other people's perspective. But then by age 7, you expect that egocentric thinking is gone. So this brings us to the third stage. The third stage of cognitive development is the concrete operational stage. This is where our children develop basic math. So they should be able to do basic math, and they should be able to sort out objects in an order. So if you say from largest to smallest or in sizes, they should be able to do that. And they are also able to develop some basic problem solving skills. Now, the fourth stage is from 12 years onwards. This is where our teenagers build abstract reasoning skills. They understand their thoughts and feelings, and they can think more rationally. Now, these 4 stages, the first stage, second stage, third stage, are very important. And we expect that our parents are mindful of any potential delays that may occur within any of these stages. On to the next. Now, there are three key factors that influence cognitive development. We have genetics, environment, and experiences. Our cognitive abilities are shaped by our genes or DNA. That is, what did your mother bring? What did your father bring to make you? But this is not to say that if your parents are academics, then the child will automatically be sharp. No, that's where the other factors like environment and experience, other factors like environment and experience comes in. So for environment, we know that exposure to things like being able to your parents allowing you to play outside or having some toys or having even people to talk to. Exposure is very essential for a child to develop skills such as communication. There's also experience. A child in a stressful home is not likely to develop as much as a child in a stress-free home. So these three key factors, genes, environment, and experiences, influences cognitive development in a child. Now let's talk about some factors that impede cognitive development. The first one is stress. As I mentioned, if you have two homes and one child is growing up in a home where there's so much stress, the child becomes timid. The child is not able to pick on any new information. The child is not able to learn. But a child in a stress-free home is allowed the opportunity to learn. Another factor that will impede cognitive development is lack of physical activity. And we've come to know that children who do not engage in physical activities tend to have poor concentration in class compared to children who are engaged in a lot of physical activity. Another point is poor nutrition. We know that children who do not eat well or children who are not given enough balanced diet do not have enough nutrients to feed the brain. So you end up not being able to learn properly, you are not able to pay attention, you're not able to concentrate in class. Another factor that impedes cognitive development is trauma. A child who has experienced any form of trauma, being physical, psychological, emotional, tends to be quiet or timid, right? From when they experience the traumatic event up until when the situation or the issue is resolved, they become timid. So they are not able to build their communication skills, language, nothing. So trauma is another factor that impedes cognitive development. Other factors include alcoholism and exposure to toxins. So when we are home and we are redecorating and painting our homes and our children are inhaling the toxins, or you go to a fuel pump every weekend and your children are inhaling the fuel, all of these have adverse effects on the brain and it affects it structurally and functionally. So now, as parents at home, how can we, in our own small way or in our own big way, foster cognitive development in our children? Um, one of the ways to foster cognitive development in our children at home is by reading together. So if you're a parent and your children have not yet developed language, so they are babies, you can still read to them. It builds their listening abilities. But then if your parents and your children have developed language, reading to them at least 15 minutes a day, reading together. So for instance, you can have your child read one line and you read another line, or one short story and your child reads another short story. It builds their vocabulary and it also builds their reading skills. Closely related is encouraging communication. Now, when we pick up our children from school, it's mostly, how are you? I'm fine. Did you eat? Yes. But then, in order to foster cognitive development in a child, you can rather practice open-ended questions. So for instance, you can ask your child, who made you the happiest in class today and why? All of these would engage the child and build their speaking skills. Another point is engaging in proper and the use of rich vocabulary. So as parents, sometimes we are tempted to be excited when our children are pronouncing things wrongly or they are pronouncing phrases wrongly. But then we are encouraged to speak the correct words and correct phrases over time so that they pick on language, which is one of the cognitive abilities. And another way to develop or another way to foster cognitive development is encouraging play. I can't stress this enough. Right from when our children develop their motor skills up until about age 6 years, the only way they navigate their environment or their environment is through play. By playing, they engage their senses, they build their motor skills, and they build their reasoning skills. Unfortunately, what happens these days is that we've replaced all the outdoor games or outdoor play with circle time and other extracurricular activities. But it's important for our children to go out to play to build their motor coordination and their reasoning skills. Closely related to encouraging play is providing opportunities for cooperative play. So, our dear parents, please let's allow our children to play with their children's service colleagues, allow them to play with their neighbors, allow them to play with their cousins and any other person they can get. What this does for the brain is that it builds their social skills and it builds their emotions as well. And we know that as parents at home, we are mostly smiling to our kids, and once in a while we frown out at them. But when they engage in cooperative play, they are able to learn other facial expressions. So they are able to learn disappointment, they are able to learn sadness and other facial expressions. So it's important to provide opportunities for our children to engage in cooperative play. Another way to foster cognitive development in our children at home is to encourage age-appropriate responsibilities. So, for instance, your 2-year-old should be able to pick up their toys or put their shoes or sandals on the shoe rack or even around the shoe rack. That's fine. They should be able to engage in some responsibilities. What does that is that it builds their problem-solving skills. Also, we have engaging in healthy lifestyle habits. Our children need to sleep, they need to stay hydrated, and they need a healthy diet. Nowadays, what we see is that parents live around Ayi Mensa, and by 4 o'clock, their children are in the car on their way to school. But children need enough sleep to build the brains, to build the neurons. They need to stay hydrated and they need to have nutritious meals. Our children will not eat their vegetables, but we need to try. In in an adverse scenario where your child will not have any vegetables at all, you could contact your pediatrician for some supplements. And lastly, on ways to foster cognitive development is limiting screen time. I know that almost everybody who has logged in today has had one lecture or one presentation or another on screen time. But it's also important. It's very important that I touch on it because what the screen does to our brain is that the fast pace at which the screens move with the game and the other things they watch on, it rewires the brain to think that that is what should be happening every day. So your brain is always on some speed mode, such that when you go to the mall or a grocery shop with your child and you are in the queue waiting to pay, your child is unable to stand still. They're not able to concentrate. They're not able to focus because your brain is just firing at some speed that is used to with the screens. So in place of the screens, we should encourage a lot of physical activity, a lot of outdoor play. It really builds their concentration and their attention. So there are there are several other factors. There are several other factors to enhance cognitive development in our children. But what is important, what's important today, what I want us to know today is that supporting cognitive development right from early childhood is important to ensure that our children are performing well in school, they are developing their social and emotional skills, they are developing adaptability, and essentially that they are poised for professional success in the future. And just the last slide before I end, I would like us to know that every child is unique. We have gone through the we have gone through the four stages of cognitive development with their age ranges. However, some children will develop faster than others depending on genes, as we spoke about, and exposure, their environment. So if you are concerned about any cognitive delays in your children, your first point of contact should be your pediatrician who would refer you to a psychologist, a speech and language therapist, or an occupational therapist. Thank you.
I think our question time would be after Jed also delivers his own. So Jed, kindly go on with yours. Thank you, Kukwa. We are so grateful. And please, as a reminder to everyone, if you have any question, comment, concern, whatever it is, kindly write it in our chat box so that our facilitators would talk to the question or would answer them when it is time to ask all these questions. And that would be after Jed's presentation, please. Jed, the floor is yours, please. Jed, please, you're unmuted. No, it's not muted. Please try again. Your slide is visible, but we're just not hearing you.
Hello.
Yes, you're on. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here today. Without wasting much time, I'll speed up to the subject of the day. And Cooper did a great presentation on cognitive development, and that makes my work very easy because no one can talk about learning without talking about cognitive development, and this is an essential part learning. Now, the The main focus of my presentation will be on learning in childhood, understanding developmental stages, and the effective educational practices. So when we say learning, what actually is learning? Is my screen visible?
Yes, please, it is.
Thank you. So, gross 2012 Gross 2012 defined learning as a process of acquiring new or modifying already existing knowledge, understanding of behaviors, skills, and values, and then preferences. That's by Gross 2012. Now, what I want us to take a careful look at here is that learning here is defined as a process, meaning that it is likened to a journey. So let's say you are on your way to get, uh, you're on your way to work, you are going to work because you want money. So you have to put in the work, right? You don't stay at home and then get the money, you move to get the money. So in the same way, with learning, we have to put in the work, right? And this is the process. Putting in the work is the process to get what we want. That is the new knowledge. If you want to get knowledge on, say, maybe any field at all, any subject of interest, you need knowledge on that. We have to go through a specific process to acquire that knowledge, or even to change the knowledge that we already had about that idea. Now, one thing that we need to know that is that all living things, including plants and then other lower organisms, that is animals, learn. And now with the advancement in technology, yeah, we heard of AI systems, artificial intelligence, and other forms of machines. And these machines are also able to learn. Now, let's settle it down to child development, the child learning. So learning itself occurs across all the domains of human development. For the purpose of this presentation, when I say domains, I'm referring to the social domain, social emotional domain, the physical domain, the cognitive domain, and then the general learning competencies. Right. So learning also begins at conception, at the point where the fetus is, the baby is in the womb, the baby starts learning. And learning doesn't just mean reading something to get information, but then every activity that we engage in gives us an experience. And this experience informs our behavior. Once our behavior is changed, then we say that we have learned. So we're talking about the stages of development next. Um, Naturally, there are 10 stages of development. That is from 8 stages of development, sorry. That is from infancy to late adulthood. But we'll be focusing on children. So we'll talk about 4 stages. And with this, let's just move on. So the first stage that we'll be looking at is infancy. That is from 0 to 2 years. At this stage, there's no formal education. But then there are several key characteristics that we would have to take note in this stage as the rate at which the brain develops. The brain really develops fast because here the child is open to new sensory experience from their auditory sense to their visual sense, their sense of touch, and all these sensations fire up neurons in the brain and then it causes it to develop faster. Yeah, the child learns to crawl, stand, walk, and all these activities also contribute to the brain development. Now, one very important factor that may affect the child's learning in this stage is that of the caregiver. If you have a caregiver who is paying attention to the child, giving all the love that the child needs, it's able to know that at this point, when the child does this, he needs this. So whatever the child needs is given to him and him or her, sorry, or whatever there is that the child requires is provided for them. The love and care is there. That builds up a secure attachment. And by building up a secure attachment, the child now learns differently, knowing that the world is a safe place. It opens him up for exploration. And also at this stage, the child learns to imitate the actions of the people around him. So when I say imitation here, I don't really mean the literal action that you do, but then what they imitate is what they think about what you did. So their observation of your action is what they imitate, and not the literal sense of your action. Now, I'll talk about the educational strategies to help children learn at this stage. There is the need for us to give them sensory toys to boost their sensory stimulation, and so give them responsive care. So you talk to them, you respond to their cues, provide comfort, and also for language exposure, we are looking at language development. So by talking to the baby frequently, you tell them about, you talk to them about activities, and you talk to them about things that you want them to know. By being intentional about this, they get to learn and then form associations with what you're saying with the real life objects and events. So that helps them build up their vocabulary and help in their language learning. And the next stage is the early childhood. That is from 3 to 5 years. At this stage, most children would have started preschool, and so learning begins, formal education begins. So they develop their social skills. They tend to play a lot with their peers. They want to play a lot with their peers. And there's this, there's another characteristic that is that is a symbolic thinking, as Kukwa rightly said earlier on. So they try to play with inanimate objects as though they were likened to other objects. So the child might take a box or a cube and then use it as though it was a car. So they play with the cube as a car. You see the child with something else, and then they are interacting with that thing as a different thing. Like they taking a pen and saying hello to you when you're on call, because they are imitating your actions, and the pen is now acting as a phone. So in the physical development area, we observe that now the child is able to do more complex physical activities, motor activities, with their running now, their jumping, and then they build on their fine motor. They learn to write, learn to draw, and other fine motor activities. So these activities or these strengths are built through play-based learning, storytelling, and then role-playing. So how do we help them build these activities? How do we help them build these competencies? By engaging them in structured play, say helping them solve puzzles, and then unstructured play could be um, playing dress up. So you can dress up like a policeman, dress up like a model. All these activities help build the child up. Now, with early literacy activities, we are looking at music and then art. So with music, children at this stage learn a lot of their vocabularies through music. So you see at school, they are listening, they are reciting rhymes and all that. They are singing rhymes and all that. This help in their language development. And then there's the social interaction ability. Since they are meeting new people, who are different from their parents and their siblings at home, they get to know other people and then they learn to interact with other people in the social environment. And next stage is the middle childhood from 6 to 11 years. Key characteristics here is development of logical thinking, improved memory and attention span, and then peer relationships. So at this stage, Piaget would say that the child is expected to develop on their concrete operational thinking, idea of conservation. So with conservation, we're looking at they having a sort of value at which they measure objects. So they will know that if water is in a plastic can and is poured into another or a different container, the level of that water remains the same. It never changes. It remains the same. Also, some educational activities or strategies that could help us learn in this stage is engaging in hands-on activities. As you can see in the picture above, students are building a craft. That's a fish. So involving them in hands-on activities and then encouraging them to work in groups will help build their competencies for this stage. And then come to early adolescence. With early adolescence, this is a very tricky stage because at this point they are seeing a lot of changes in their bodies and they are mostly confused. They don't know what's going on. And this is the point where puberty kicks in and the boys now are on a journey to becoming men and the women are also on a journey to become the girls are also on a journey to becoming women. At this stage, they are focused on finding who they are. Right? They want to form an identity for themselves. Who am I? What do I want to be? And by doing this, how can we help them? We can help them through collaborative projects and then creating a supportive environment where we make sure that the environment we've created for them to accomplish their tasks is supportive enough, and then also giving them room to enjoy their independence and build their sense of autonomy. Because if we are not able to let them feel that or come to understand that they are independent on their own and then they can do things on their own, it is going to affect their learning in the subsequent stages because they'll grow up with a sense of they not being enough to, or they not amounting to anything, and that affects their self-confidence. And last stage would be late adolescence. At this stage, there is a requirement of abstract thinking, abstract and critical thinking. So children here are able to indulge in hypothetical deductive reasoning, where they create or form their own hypothesis of how the world works, and then are able to test them. So they know that if I go to school and I study well enough, I might get an A, or I will get an A in, let's say, mathematics. So then they would go to school, study hard enough in mathematics, and try and see if their efforts were rewarded. By so doing, they are testing the hypothesis that hard work is rewarded with success. And also, at this stage, they are looking at um, exploring future goals. So they are looking at um, their career plans. They are looking at what they want to do, who they want to be in future, and how can we help them? We can help them by providing them with mentorship, um, giving them advice on how to prepare for their career of interest, pointing them in the right path, and then making sure that they receive the requisite mentorship and then the requisite of the needed opportunity for them to gain experience. So through internships and then mentorship, and also we help them by thinking more critically and logically by involving them in tasks that would would challenge them to solve real life problems. Because at this stage, say maybe if the child is at 17 or 18, at this time they are supposed to be in the university, and this is going to be challenging enough. So helping them helping them how do I put this? Helping them be able to solve these real world tasks and the challenges that come with the tasks gives them a sense of purpose, and then also helps them build their self-confidence, and in that way they are prepared to face the future. Now, what are some other factors affecting learning? We have biological factors, environmental factors, and then, of course, educational factors. So with the biological factors, you're looking at the genes, and then you're looking at human health and nutrition. As Cooper rightly said, our genes are what our parents gave us, and these genes contain some characteristics that are inherited by us. So there are some, I wouldn't want to say disorders. So there are some conditions that are transferred from our parents to us. We inherit this. And if it happens that this condition that you've inherited prevents you from learning in a specific area, then your ability to learn about that specific area is hindered. Also, if you're not in good health or you are malnourished, it's going to affect your ability to learn. And then also look at the environmental factors. So our family dynamics play a big role in how we learn. So we know that families have their own system of belief. So they have their own culture, and the culture of your family goes a long way to affect your personhood. So how you are going to learn, how you approach real world tasks as affected by your family, the socio-economic status of your family, how well-to-do your parents are, how financially fit you are, And then if you're coming from a family where having 3 square meals is quite difficult on a day, it it has this effect on your reasoning that maybe you will not want to actually dream big, or when you are setting goals, you keep that in mind that if I want to go to maybe the mall with my friends today, I don't have money, so why should I go there? And if I want to go to the museum just to go sightseeing, sorry to say, but Antibanko excursion. So what would you do? You stay at home, and then you not going to see these things. It's going to make you in a way not being able to learn the things that other people are exposed to and they are learning. So cultural influences are socioeconomic status and then our family dynamics play a role in how we learn. Also, finally, the educational factors. So looking at the quality of the schools and then the quality of the teachers. If the teachers are not well equipped to support the children, then they learning, their learning is some way impeded, because if I don't have the technical know-how or I don't have the required tools to teach you, then in the end, you are not learning properly, and then you are not able to meet the standard. In the same way, if the school is not providing the required resources, the child is going to be at a loss. And also, if they are not able to get these resources, then they end up not being able to learn as they are supposed to be. Now, let's look at the role of technology. Well, I would say that technology has been, to me, technology has done a lot of good than the bad, but it depends on the lens that you're looking at it from. So there are positive sides to the emergence of technology, the advancement in technology. There are also negative sides. Technology has made our life easier. Learning today is more easier than it was in the 20th century, maybe, before the inception of the internet. Now you go to the internet and then you just ask Google, like 20-year-old boy, ask Google, what is photosynthesis? And Google will give you an answer. And this will save you a lot of time than having to go to a library, go and look for this archaic book and be combing through the pages to know the definition of photosynthesis. Google has made that simple for you. What could have taken you about hours can be done in just a few minutes. So, yes, technology helps us get information, and it also gives us access to certain resources that we need in our educational journey, like the educational apps, games, and videos that are that are geared towards helping us learn. Now, the negative aspects or the negative impacts. Research shows that increased screen time results in reduced attention, right? So the more we are glued to the screen, the lesser our attention span, and this has this has caused a lot of conditions to like ADHD and virtual autism, which is as a result of increased screen time. Now, there is digital divide. Digital divide here means that there is not there is no adequate or not enough access to a required technology for us to be able to learn what we need to learn. Right? So we are not able to access the resources, the tools that can help us maybe learn in a specific field. So we're not being able to access these things, we thereby fall short of what is supposed or what is expected of us. Here are some solutions and challenges that have also affect learning. So we're looking at learning disabilities like dyslexia, dyscalculia, um, uh, autism, ADHD. They are conditions that affect our learning. And then also there's behavioral issues and there's socio-emotional issues like anxiety, depression, and the likes. So these issues affect the way we learn. And to help us do this, say, learning disabilities, we can help this or we can help manage this through early intervention. Early intervention has been proven to really help in situations like this. We making sure that the education system that the child is in is as inclusive enough that it offers the child a diversified way of learning actually would go a long way to help them in learning. And so for behavioral issues, we should learn to know, try to know whether the behavior that the child is putting up, is it to escape something, or let's say the behavior is put out towards escaping maybe a math class. So they throw tantrums, they start sleeping, or they do something that is not expected of them at that moment. If that is the case, how can we help the child to be able to take away this behavior that we don't like and then enforce that they are able to learn? There are support services where you get to see psychologists, get to speak to SEND professionals, special education in professionals, you get to speak to counselors. If these things are provided for the children, then they are going to be able to navigate their way around the world of learning. So summary of key points. So learning evolves through distinct stages from infancy to late adolescence, each with unique characteristics and needs. There are different stages, and these different stages utilize various learning mechanisms from sensory exploration to abstract thinking. Now, tailoring educational approaches to each stage enhances learning outcomes with methods ranging from play-based learning to advanced problem-solving tasks. The biological, the environmental, and educational factors all play a critical role in shaping learning experiences. Now, technology offers both opportunities and challenges, and addressing common learning difficulties with effective solutions is crucial. Now, what are our final thoughts? Adapting teaching methods to align with developmental stages supports effective learning and growth. Providing holistic support, including mental health resources and an inclusive education, ensures all children can thrive. And fostering a love of learning from an early age encourages lifelong educational engagement and success. That is all. But before we go out, I want us to look at this quote from Just Lair. And it says, children are not things to be molded, but people to be unfolded. Please have a think of it and see you in the question session.
Well done, Jed. And thank you to Kukwa so much for everything. Wow, that's quite insightful. Okay. So now we have a whole lot of info. Both the psychology team and the SEN team has given us a whole lot to think about, to ponder over. Please, your questions, your comments, your concerns, whatever it is that you have, you can start posing them. If you wouldn't want to unmute and talk, you can kindly write it in the chat box as earlier stated. So we are open for conversation currently. If you have any concerns, any comments whatsoever, kindly put up your hand and then we would call you so you share with us. But before we go on with that, since we don't have any hands currently, let me start reading the comments that we have in here. Okay, so Wisdom Donko said that the profiles were insightful. Thank you, Wisdom. And aside that, we also had okay, so I think that's Dr. Pierre saying a great presentation, Kukwa. Letitia also said, thank you, Kukwa. And then there's a thank you, Jed. It was very informational. Oh, unfortunately, Kukwa can't turn on her video, so please, don't worry. You can ask the questions, and then she and Jed, they would answer for you. Lily, you are asking if you can have the slides afterwards. Well, the program is being streamed currently via YouTube. So, and then would have it also streamed on our Facebook pages. If you are on any of our platforms too, you can have access to it because we would share it there. So you can have access to not just the slides, but everything in its entirety. You can have a listen to it. So please, it's there for you. There's a well done, Jed, also here. We appreciate the fact that you all understand everything that has been shared. I am happy when our resource personnel, they are able to explain things to our audience to an extent that they get to understand. They don't even want to pose any question. All they would do is say thank you and then congratulations to the team. So we are very grateful that you understand everything. Please, I will just wait for a while. If we don't have any questions, then we can wrap it up. Oba says that awesome presentations. Please, what is the best approach to correct an 8-year-old with behavioral problems? She's asking what's the best approach is to correct an 8-year-old who has behavioral problems. Cooper, would you like to start for us, please? Oh, Kukwa, you can't unmute. Oh, sorry. Which one are you using? We are using Kukwa, so I should be able to see you. Please give me a second. Let me get Kukwa's on, and then would ask her to unmute, please. Okay, Kukwa, please, you can go on.
Hi, Oba. Before I answer the question, I'd like to know what kind of behavioral problems you're talking about. Is it conduct problems, like your 8-year-old does not listen to instructions, is being disrespectful? Is that what you're talking about? Or you're talking about anxiety-related problems or other behavioral problems? So if we get that clear, then we will know the appropriate intervention for your 8-year-old. Thank you.
So there's always a cause for something. That's what they'll tell you. Oba, okay, Oba's hand is up. Let's ask you to unmute so that you can ask the question, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So my question is with regards to him being disrespectful and not listening to instructions.
Okay, so it has to do with being disrespectful and not listening to instructions. All right, Kukwa, does that
Yes,
help?
but I realize that attitude is it's not an outside problem, but rather an internal and familiar with. So I don't know. I don't know how, because when you mention it to the school, it's as if everything is all right there, no issues at all there. But when it comes to people he's familiar with, then it's like a different person.
Okay, so if I understand, it's just people he's familiar with. Let's say those in the
Yes.
house, those he knows very well.
Yes.
Okay, Kukwa, please, would you like to take it from here?
Yes. I'm happy you have identified that your child behaves differently at school and behaves differently at home. That it will help with the intervention as well. So sometimes in school, because of the rules they have, there's structure, there's time, and there are consequences for your actions. Children do not put up certain behaviors. But then at home, when they are comfortable with their parents, they tend to engage in behaviors they wouldn't engage in elsewhere. So if you're asking of the best approach to correct your 8-year-old, I would say that if you haven't yet put in stringent measures to correct his behaviors, then maybe you should inform his teachers about his behaviors at home. And then whatever they are doing at school, they would let you know, and then you do at home.
Okay. Jed, would you like to add something to it? Or I can top up with something, please. Okay. Dr. Pierre would like to say something. Please, you can unmute, Dr. Pierre. I think you are the one who's in that, right? Yes.
Thank you. So just to add on to what Kukwa said, she's absolutely right. Maybe that there are consequences, much more clear consequences at school that, the child knows, if I do this one, I'm not getting away with it. In addition to that, usually we don't think about it, but the relationship base creates a lot of power and influence. So, in terms of trying to find time to build a relationship with the child, with the 8-year-old, to get to understand him, the temperament, the personality, the things that are like triggers. Maybe they're always teasing him about this. So when they tease him, he overreacts. Trying to build a relationship to understand him helps, because then when you say things, it carries more weight, because now they care about what mommy thinks or what daddy thinks. So that's one aspect. The other aspect I will add is all behavior can be shaped.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not animals, but we are very prone to being molded and shaped. Every child has what I call their currency, their thing that if you take this one away, it will shift. If you say, I can't go outside and play, or I can't watch TV, or if you say on the reverse side, if you're able to be respectful, use appropriate language, slow down your reactions, this is going to be your reward. When you know your child, you can figure out what works and what doesn't. Try different things out. There's no parenting manual, so we're all figuring it out as we go. try different things out with the fundamental understanding of shaping the behavior, rewards and consequences, and building the relationship. So that's what I will add.
That's very true. Thank you, Dr. Pierre, for that. And please, additionally, whatever consequence you met out for a behavior, do not relax in implementing it. Don't say that I'll let you go for now. If you want to set in or you want to modify a behavior, if probably the child goes out and you tell the child you have a timeout or you'll have to do this activity or you do this particular thing for this number of minutes, please stick to it. Don't try being lenient because they may show you some puppy eyes and face and then they get all cute like that. If you give a consequence, follow through so they know you are serious. The next time they know that mommy says this, definitely she's going to carry it out and it would definitely not go that way. Jed, please, would you like to say something to add to that before we read Letitia's comment, please?
Well, I think a lot has been said, and just to sum it all up, we set boundaries and we make sure that they are in their zone, and you reward good behavior to be able to, I wouldn't say punish, because when you say punishment, then there's 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 this notion about punishment that it is um, something that is supposed to be very, very harsh. So don't engage in actions that are harsh that will hurt the child. And then you set boundaries and then you set clear rules. That if you do this, you're not getting this. If you do this, then you can get what you want. So if you want what you want, then you're supposed to put up a good behavior. I think moving forward, that would help.
I think
And don't be
Oba
too soft.
sorry. Please go ahead, Jed.
And don't be too soft.
Okay, so age appropriate ones. Oba, please, would you want to add something?
Yes. And what I want to add is that we tried the consequence for reward or reward for consequence bit of it. But my worry is that at a point I felt we were being too lax. Okay, because other parents, I don't know what other parents are doing, but they made me feel bad that I was giving him reward and, you know, giving him consequences for his actions. So I don't know if there's another approach, but the point of this, so it's always a trade-off. And sometimes you can't have, those trade-offs when you are out of the house or out of the home. And that is my worry now.
Okay. So, Oba, please let me ask. As you were trying out the reward system, was it working? Oh, I don't know whether Oba can hear me. Hey, sorry, you're muted again.
Yes, and it was working. It was working. It was working very well. It was working very, very, very well. But we went somewhere and it was like, we would the more man rewards and consequences. And the way the person said it made me feel bad. So, because I don't know how they do it, but it's as if their children, go straight by or strictly by what they say. Do this, and the child is like a robot going to do it without any confrontation, without any questions.
Asked
I
or
don't
any
know.
comments being made. I think Dr. Pia also mentioned something, and I think Kuka also said it when she was giving her presentation, and it also carried itself through Jet's own. They made a comment that there is no straight jacketed thing or line of action when it comes to dealing with every child. Every child is different. That's one thing that we should bear in mind. And as such, looking at the differences that we have in kids, one person may decide to use this route, it works for that individual. Another person may decide to use that route, it works for that person too. Someone may also decide to do a combination of things, and that also works for that individual. However, it doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. Do you get it? That's why I asked what you tried. Was it working for you? If the person says, probably this person, they do something different. There's no harm in asking. That's my opinion. There's no harm in asking, what do you do that works for you? Can you share with me? That's one nice way of also acquiring knowledge, because as Jed mentioned earlier, we learn every day. So in learning every day, we get to pick up from things, we get to adapt to things. Can we try finding out how the other party does something? What are some of the things that is working for the person? And then we try and see how best we can put or fuse all these things together. And as Dr. Pierre said now, there's no parenting manual. Probably if you found one, please share with us. We'd love to have a copy of it and help our parents too. So whatever thing that you would try and work at that would be good, please try it out and give us feedback. We would love to hear from you. Okay, so then in moving on to the next one, Letitia posted a comment here. She says that it's quite stressful when you want to discuss speech challenges with parents. Most of them are in denial. What can one do to help these parents? Kindly advise. Please, over to you, Kukwa and Jed. What would you advise?
Sorry, I just want to be clear. In what capacity are you asking this question? So I know how best to tailor my suggestions.
I
Okay.
guess as an educator.
Probably because it sounds like an educator.
Yeah. Jed, do you want to start and I'll continue?
All right, ladies first.
Oh, okay. So Letitia has given us further information. She is an educator, so preschool, ages 3 to 5. So for a preschooler, ages 3 to 5, what would you advise that parents, what would you advise an educator as to how to talk to parents concerning speech-related challenges?
Okay, Letitia. Every parent dreams of their children becoming exceptional children, playing the best of music instruments and all of that. So it's hard for every parent if they realize that their children are lagging when it comes to the speech, or their children are developing speech challenges. It means they can't communicate properly with their children. So first of all, you empathize with them, and denial is one of the stages of grief. So please empathize with them first. But then secondly, as I mentioned in my slides, there are stages of development. So what you can do with them is show them the stages of cognitive development. That from between age 2 and 7, your children should be speaking, at least putting 2-3 words together and forming sentences as they go. So then you let them understand that, oh, this is how it works. It starts from monosyllabic, then 2 words and 3 words. And you let them know that their child is not within, your child is falling behind the grade appropriate, the age expectation, your child is falling behind. And you can advise on ways to refer to their pediatrician, the psychologist, speech and language therapist. But first of all, please empathize with them and refer to the appropriate specialist.
Thank you, Kukwa. Jed, please, would you like to add something, or it's okay?
I think it's fine. She couldn't have said it any better.
All right. So please, Letitia, over to you. Okay. Ken says that thanks for the presentation. Please, What do you have to say about correcting grammar in children between ages 3 and 5? Is it a good practice or it affects their self-confidence? So the person wants to know whether it's a good practice to be correcting the language of the kids between ages 3 to 5, or it is a good practice.
Wow. Children are natural language learners. A child will pick up language faster than an adult. Our neurons are built such that children are able to pick up languages faster than an adult. So what I would say is that instead of verbally correcting your child, hey, it's not I did it. You should say it correctly. So instead of enjoying the mistakes they are making, as I said in the presentation, you should practice proper and rich language and grammar at home. So you should speak properly, and your child will pick on as they go. Ages 3 to 5, they are still putting their words together, and they'll definitely learn. So instead of correcting the grammar, you should speak properly and rich grammar, and they'll pick on it. I don't know if Jade has anything to say or Dr. Pierre to add.
You are actually right, Kukwa. In second language acquisition, it's one of the things that's one of the theories surrounding it clearly states that it's actually best to don't keep correcting the errors. Don't keep telling the child to do this, do that. Let you say the right thing. Keep going with the right language. Just as you said, kids are natural learners. They tend to learn the correct thing. They tend to correct themselves naturally. If you realize it is being persistent, because even in an adult, if an elderly person is learning a language, a new language, it becomes a struggle. However, when they tend to hear you speak the language appropriately, they also tend to pick up those things from you. Then when you realize it is becoming too much, that's when, just in a nice, gentle way, in order not to affect their self-confidence, as you said, Ken, chip in the things gradually and let them pick from there. Probably during a play time or a play session, just putting 1 or 2 words in there to help the child learn from you. Has that been answered? Jed, did I seek your opinion before going on?
I'd like to add something.
Please do.
Right. So one thing I've learned from several papers is that children are really good in statistics. And statistics using this sense is that they are able to identify patterns. So if they hear you continually say something in a regular pattern, they form associations with that, and then they are able to repeat that word. So if you say pretty baby, keep saying pretty baby, he hears it, pretty baby, pretty baby, pretty baby. Very soon you hear them say pretty baby. So they are picking something, and then you think it's not grammatical enough. Then instead of saying, hey, don't say this, it's not like that, it's like this, why not just repeat what they said, but then this time say it in the right way. As time goes on, you'll learn to speak the way you speak.
Thank you. So, someone who is using an iPhone says that the consequences should also be proportional to the behavior. Do not meet huge punishment for small misbehavior. Sorry. So please let it be proportional. All right. So please, any other comments, concerns, concerns, questions, any other thing that anyone would like to share with us? But I would like to say a very big thank you to everyone who decided to join us. You took the time off your busy schedule. You were a part of us, and we are so grateful for that. We are currently sharing with you what we have in July. We'll be having our annual special education and inclusion webinar. And on your screens, you get to see our speakers, our distinguished speakers in their various fields that they all work in and enjoy passionately. We request that you please sign up for it, make your commitment known, and be part of us, because our goal is to help our facilitators especially get to know how to support our kids who are neurodiverse. Aside that, we also need our parents to get to understand how to support our kids at home. We bring you these free webinars to support you get to learn. However, you learn a whole lot more when you join these paid webinars, because in here, they get to share very practical knowledge, hands-on things that you can do, be it at home or in school, to help our learners, because their welfare is what we need. Their ability to improve is what we desire. So please help us help you. Please sign on to it. Our early bird is currently off or done. However, you can still register. If you are an institution, you can register 5 or more of your facilitators, and you get to have that at a discounted rate. Well, that one is still on for a while. So please, this is something that we would like to share with you. Aside that, have I missed anything? Okay, so if I haven't, then I would like to say a very big thank you to everyone who was able to join us today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for making time for us. Please remember that next week, Sunday, we have our monthly lecture also coming on at 5 p.m. And please, the flyer will be out this week or the coming week. Share with others, and please have a very good weekend. Enjoy your breaks and a nice one to you all. Bye.
Bye.